I'm going to read now a new section that I have never read before, so please be patient if I screw it up big time. But one of my little-known summer jobs was working as an intern for Senator Chris Dodd. That gives me some serious DC street cred. And I don't know if you guys have ever worked an internship for a big government. Actually, I know you're working for an internship for a government agency. It can be, weird to be nice about it. And I wouldn't say I had a very structured day or goals or any plan or a manager. But it was so you kind of get to do what you want with it. And one of the experiences I had was very similar to, so one of the characters, Robespierre, is kind of a budding politician, Robespierre. And she goes to work in Speaker Pelosi's office, who of course is from San Francisco. And I'm glad I get to read this chapter while she's still Speaker. It's kind of fun. And she kind of gets into the whole letter writing underground of working in the Senate. So they get a ton of letters, emails, all that stuff every day. And it's like unbelievable the mail that comes in. And they pay attention to it. So this section is kind of about that little known process. So this is Robespierre in Speaker Pelosi's office. She pulled it, and she's reviewing the mail. She pulled out the top envelope, unfolded a loose leaf out of eighths. Wild handwriting recommended repurposing mothballed anti-aircraft weaponry to stop dangerous hurricanes, as fired bullets would disrupt hazardous wind patterns with counterattacking air currents and the sheer force of hot lead. Now I gotta stop, because I actually got a letter like that. It was like, why don't you use your anti-aircraft weapons to shoot at clouds and stop storms? I was like, interesting. So you have to write back to these guys, right? Everybody gets a response. So that was fun. Like, oh, well, interesting point. Anyway. The next letter was typed, all caps, and contained profanity of a class not observed since Sven's sailor mates swilled beer by the gallon on weekend nights back on Stillwell Road. Following that was a lengthy expose on the devious connection between military officials and the Vatican, involving parallel universes and subatomic weaponry, all of it explained by invisible ink on the Dead Sea Scrolls. One treatise on spies dressed up as farmers and seeding fields with toxins. Another pointing out the indefensible sluttiness of the speaker's wardrobe, her leg flesh visible from 5 yards or closer. Rants against homeless people, corporations, governments, nonprofits, flaccid, passive everymen who didn't ask questions, annoying liberal brats who wouldn't stop with the questions, right-wing hotheads who screamed too much, idiot activists, idiot cops, idiot criminals, intelligent criminals, tight-ass media dopes, scamming banks and fucked up CEOs, dumbass Mexicans who tried to buy their houses on orange picker salaries, xenophobic blowhards who conveniently ignored their own immigrant heritage, greedy real estate agents and exploitative mortgage brokers, preps and hipsters, yuppies and too-cools, enviro-Nazis, polluters, single mothers, single dads, married losers, useless children and seniors, scumbag gay bashers, trannies, anti-transsexuals, crackheads, squares drunks, gangs of kids throwing trash in the street, sanitation companies and their unions, exploitative national chain stores forcing their way into local neighborhoods, moronic communists who blocked well-meaning businesses from opening up. The speaker, the speaker's parents and husband and children, anyone who'd ever met the speaker's ancestors and descendants, every last one of them to burn in hell for eternity plus. That accounted for about half the letters. The rest drove down on the wars in epic poems of battle and freedom, recounting specific attacks and missions, names of dead men and women, requests for memorials and remembrance, screeds against military contractors and America-hating camel fuckers, and all the evil that built this into being. Flags to fly at half-mast until the guns were put away. Some demanded bigger deployments and hydrogen bombs, but most were tired and sick of it and drained and far beyond done. Personal essays on selling their dead son's car and donating clothes and living in orphanages. Pictures of kids growing up parentless, needing an explanation. Why was America fighting in these places? Why people mixed with explosives? Why high school kids flew 10,000 miles to absorb a car bomb outside a restaurant? How they loved the country lots, but these questions required answers. Teardrops and grease stains, small careful signatures, respectful salutations, and congenial farewells. Robespierre took these war letters home with her, read them over dinner, and through the night. They would not let her sleep. She drank a pot of coffee and beat everyone into the office, fired up her computer, and typed. No filters, no calculations. She mined honesty and truth, the rising fluid she felt between her lungs. Individual responses with direct answers, apologies, and a plan. A policy enacted overnight that the wars would end. Speaker Pelosi would not support the fighting, would not commit another dollar of taxpayer money to support it, would never let this happen again. These wars were wrong, they were lies, their children were dying for nothing, for less than nothing, dying for losing. With judicious copying and pasting, she was through the stack by noon, then printed off the responses, applied the speaker's auto pen signature, stuffed them, and mailed them, then hit the cafeteria for a salad and a Diet Coke. 3 days later, she returned from her lunch break to find Maeve, her supervisor, sitting at her desk, clicking through her computer. I think we've all been there. Let's walk, Maeve stated, taking Robespierre's elbow and moving her through the stately hallways and down elaborate winding staircases and outside into the swamp heat sun, a little park across the street. You trying to ruin us? Maeve asked, her voice separating into a fusillade of razor-tipped spears. Everything a democratic Congress stands for can be ruined by this. By what? Letting Maeve feel in control. Don't act stupid. The letters. She held up one of Robespierre's better missives, a searing 3-page discourse on the institutionalized hypocrisy wrought by the military-industrial complex. The lies you spread. I didn't spread any lies. You impersonated Speaker Pelosi and made policy promises the Speaker never would or could enact. Lies. Everything you send out is an impersonation, she burst out. Silly stupid with the double speak and side lingo and made-up shit. Pelosi doesn't do any of it herself. Maeve's face arranged like a keyboard, jaws out and teeth like yellow wood, hair stretching back like piano wire. Approval. That's the difference. I never authorized any of these. Pieces fit inside of her. She knew this was how it was done. A perfect political dumping. I didn't do anything wrong, she said. I found the letters on your computer. And the print logs. And a room full of witnesses who saw you working there during the hours in question. Overall, real sloppy work. The high slipped from her head, and she landed square in the center of the jungle heat. These points were too true. She was tostada with a side of eggs, exercises littered with rookie mistakes. The only alternative was to take down as much as she could with her, make herself too knowledgeable to turn in. I never had any instructions, she claimed. There were no approval processes in place. I just used common sense. Well, we've all tried that one, right? No movement in Maeve's face, eyes barely open, a death mask before burial. There are clear approval processes in place, posted on the wall of every cubicle. All communications from the Speaker of the House's office require review and approval from me. Robespierre vaguely recalled the laminated form on the wall of her cubicle printed in attention-getting, eye-painting red type, over which she pinned several photos of President Obama playing basketball and a postcard of the Golden Gate Bridge drowning in fog. You've been frank with me, so I'll be frank with you, Robespierre said. You can either go down with me for not telling me about your approval process, or you can blame it on a computer problem. I want to transfer, somewhere important. But what was more important than the Speaker's office? The White House. And not the old executive office building either. I want the real deal, 1600 Pennsylvania, and the Oval Office, and little Obama's running around the White House lawn with Bo the dog. Can't do it. Unbelievable in every contour. Maybe not, but you better try.